Hi, I'm Steve Miletto from the Teaching, Learning, Leading K-12 podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of My EdTech Life. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday. Hopefully, you've had a wonderful day wherever it is that you're joining us from, wherever in the world you're joining us from. I just want to say thank you so much for all of your continual support. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, the follows, the listens, the feedback. We really appreciate all of that, guys, because we do what we do for you so we can bring you some amazing conversations week in and week out, and hopefully multiple times per week as well. But again, I'm just really excited to be here with you all this evening, and we're definitely going to have a ball today. I've definitely been looking forward to this conversation for a couple of weeks now, and I'm just really excited because we're going to be talking AI. We're going to be talking Diffit, and we've got an amazing guest, which we'll introduce shortly. But before we do that, we definitely want to give a big shout out to Goose Chase. Thank you so much for sponsoring My EdTech Life. So, guys, if you want to make your classrooms a little bit more interactive and create some amazing learning experiences, please make sure you check out goosechase.com. And if you use code MyEdTech10, you can take 10% off a district license, a school license, or even a personal license. So please make sure you check them out. So again, thank you so much, Goose Chase, for all of your support. And now, again, I definitely want to introduce you to an amazing, amazing guest. I have been following Catherine on TikTok for a great while. And, even when she just transitioned and, from teaching to the Diffit team. And so I'm really excited to welcome Catherine Green to the show. Catherine, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. Yeah, thank you so much. This is such an honor.
Absolutely. I'm definitely excited for you to be here because, like I said, you've got such great energy. As I go on TikTok and I find your videos always so informative, you're always willing to take feedback back to the team and, just building up a great community. So I thank you for that because there are many companies that are out there that, that you still build community, but, you do it in a different way. You add your own spice to it. And I absolutely appreciate that spice for sure. So keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank
So,
you.
Catherine, let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, I've been excited to speak with you for a while now. So, if you could, please give us a little brief introduction, your
Yeah.
context in education for our audience members that are joining us live or will be catching this on the replay.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me here. I was a teacher for 8 years. I taught 2 years at the middle school level teaching US history. And then I moved to the high school in the same district. And I taught for 6 years world history. And I loved working with students, which I think most teachers agree with, that like the joy comes from working with students. But there got to be a point in my career where I just fell in love with working with teachers more. I had a lot of opportunities to lead PDs. I had a lot of opportunities to, because of my passion with ed tech and my joy of sharing ed tech, that led to me doing a lot more professional development, especially when the pandemic hit and we went to remote learning. And when I went back to the classroom after remote learning, I realized that my heart was saying it was time to try something different, and that where I was having the most joy in the previous years was working with teachers. So that's when I transitioned out of the classroom. And, I've been so lucky to land with the Diffit team. We're a really small team. There's only 4 of us, 2 co-founders, and then myself and an engineer. And we are very teacher focused in everything we do. And so it warms my heart to hear that that's what you see from us, that's how you see the community we're building. You see what we're making for teachers. I feel very good knowing that from an outside perspective, you see that as well.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of the things that I love so much about when your content comes across on my feed, and it's just great. You can see it, you can feel it. And I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So that for sure, like being very sincere, I absolutely love it. I had no idea until you told me right now that you guys are a team of four. And for the work that you're putting in and everything. It really seems like you have, a whole army, on the Diffit team. But this is amazing. And again, kudos to the work that you're doing. So, Catherine, now that you told us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about that superhero origin story, I just wanted to kind of dive in a little bit deeper just to see. I know you mentioned, you came back, from pandemic and you're like, hey, you know what, it's time to do a little something different. So, you transitioned from being a teacher and diving into the ed tech space. So I just kind of wanted to ask, what was the catalyst for this change, and how did your teaching background fit in once you landed with Diffit?
So the catalyst for the change was it was the spring. It was our first full year back in the classroom. And it was the springtime, and I was just starting to become the sort of teacher that I knew my students didn't deserve. And I was starting to just every day I was walking into the classroom, and I know so many teachers, this will probably resonate with them, but the joy and the spark and the love of it wasn't there. And my students were suffering because of that. Like I wasn't able to like give them what they needed and also give myself what I needed. And that's when I was like, there's something not aligning here. And so that feeling being so constant was definitely a turning point for me and that's where I dug deep and was like, well, where was my joy most recently? Like where was I feeling the most accomplished and having the most joy in my work? And it was on Twitter or TikTok when I was engaging with teachers and I was talking with teachers and helping them kind of problem solve in like the chaotic world of ed tech where there's so many choices and so many options and it can be so overwhelming. And I was getting so much joy out of those little wins of helping a teacher who thought they didn't necessarily know ed tech find a tool that fit their needs and also made their life easier. So it made it easier for them and for their students to accomplish what their goal was. And there was a part two to your question, and I don't remember what it was.
Oh, it's okay. So I just wanted to ask, now with the teaching background that you had, landing on Diffit, how did your teaching background influence your role or has influenced your role
Yeah.
with Diffit?
It's been so amazing with this team in particular because, I really do get to bring that teacher perspective, but I
Mhm.
also know the longer I'm out of the classroom, the less perspective I'm going to be able to give because the world of education is changing so quickly and the dynamics of the classroom are changing so quickly. So right now I'm able to give a lot of feedback, a lot of insight when it comes to product and the content we're developing and the tools that we're making from that teacher point of view. And part of that is also reaching out to other teachers to confirm that to make sure that I'm really representing the teacher community. I was never an elementary teacher, so I need to reach out to elementary teachers consistently and make sure, like, is this going to work for them too, right? Is this going to be the right fit for them, or do they need something different? And my experience with teaching really helped me in this role because of the fact that we're so grounded in that teacher feedback and we're so grounded in building something that is for teachers. There's it's not I worked for another ed tech company previously and it's not necessarily I feel so bad because those who are like, how do I transition out of teaching? My role in Diffit is so unique and so particular, and I'm so blessed and lucky to have it because it really was about that teacher knowledge and that knowledge of working with teachers that made this role the perfect fit for me.
Excellent. Obviously, and that really does help. And again, it does resonate as I see your content. Like I said, it comes through my feed. Mainly it's on TikTok. That's really where I've kind of been hanging out a little bit more because you really get a lot of insight from a lot of educators. You get a lot of insight from a lot of, subject matter experts and so on that are sharing a lot of great things, and then of course coming back on Twitter, kind of just seeing, a lot of the posts that are very helpful and so on. But now I've just kind of transitioned a little bit more to that. But what I want to ask you, you mentioned something that was very important that kind of leads into this next question where you're saying, many times there's going to be a point where, that you mentioned, of course, education's moving very fast all the time. So there's going to come a point in time where maybe, that insight that you had is going to be like, whoa, like, I'm not quite there anymore yet, but now you're, looking towards teachers and saying, hey, will this work out for you? And so on. So I want to ask you, as the content and community lead for Diffit, what does a typical day look like for you? And how do you ensure that the content that you're sharing resonates with teachers?
So typical day is a little tough because right now I don't really have a typical day. I can tell you there's some constants every day. Like every day, I'm spending a significant amount of time in our social spaces, in our Facebook group, and networking with teachers and setting up calls with teachers for us to get the feedback that we need to ensure that, as education changes, as real classroom teachers are using our product, that it really aligns and meets their goals. So I start every morning in our Facebook group, on Twitter, on TikTok, reading through every comment, reading through every post that anyone's done, putting that feedback together for our team, and then also responding and replying where I can to make sure teachers feel heard and supported, and to troubleshoot any problems that might come along, that's far less the case of what I have to do, which is nice, but I do try and help with that as well. And so that's a pretty much how I start and end my day is getting into that teacher feedback loop via social media. And when it comes to ensuring that we are really making sure Diffit is what teachers need and that we're really responding to what teachers want in the classroom, it is those communities we've created on social media via TikTok and our Facebook community. But it's also getting on calls with teachers. Normally our team gets on calls like 3 to 5 times a week with individual teachers, and we'll demo something for them and we'll just ask them like, what do you think? Or we'll tell them to go play around with like our like sandbox and give us real-time feedback. And we'll ask them, questions about things we weren't sure about. They'll give us new ideas. And so we spend a lot of time each week actively talking and engaging with teachers.
That is wonderful. And that is so important. I love the way that you are just very hands on. And one of the things that you mentioned that I absolutely love is responding to teachers so they feel heard. That's been something that's been like kind of like a constant that I hear, since we came back from pandemic and doing shows and so on, and hearing it not only from educators, practitioners, but now also that I've been at or have had the opportunity to interview, many people that work with platforms. I think that's been something that's been very important and has definitely it's been something that resonates from each show and so on, just the ability to be heard. And I think that that's very important because it does something for a teacher or an educator that says, wow, somebody values my feedback, my work, and so on. And of course, they buy into the mission, of course, the mission for Diffit, and it just becomes just wonderful. Obviously in your community, I'm sure you have different, segments or subsections even within the community, those that just, hey, I use Diffit and I'm good to go, and leave it at that. And then there's those that, hey, I want to share back some feedback. Can I meet with you and so on? And then there's those that really want to participate in everything that you do. So I'm sure that for yourself, as creating content and being the community manager, you really have to identify those niches
Mhm.
within the group. So make sure that everybody gets what they're looking for. And I think that's very important. And again, I know that I've said this a lot. I think that you do a great job at it from what I see, that you post. So that's definitely something that's very important. So coming back to Diffit too, as well, and working with teachers, we know that Diffit, prides itself in like, hey, we want to save time for teachers, and of course the work that they're doing. So can you share a little bit of insight as far as how the platform Diffit specifically achieves this goal for teachers?
Yeah, I would love to actually, if this would be a good time for us to jump to me, like actually showing you how it works. Because one of the things we pride ourselves in is like the simplicity of how the platform works is part of how we hope it saves teachers' times. And if I just describe it, I don't think you're going to understand how truly simple it is. So if you're good, can I go ahead and
Yes,
share my screen? Awesome.
absolutely. That would
All
be
right.
great.
Let me make sure I'm sharing the right tab. There we go. All right. So when teachers go to diffit.me, it's going to just look like this when they first get there. Now I'm logged in. So if you weren't logged in, you'd click right here to log in, and you can log in with your Google account. We are working on alternative ways to log in as well. So if you're like, I don't have a way to log in with a Google account, it is in the works. We've gotten that feedback from teachers, and it's something we're actively working on. But you'll notice there's just 3 tabs here. And you can either give it a topic, a learning objective, a question, and tell it a grade level, and it will generate a reading for you. You can give it a link to an article or a video. So if you have like a New York Times article, a crash course video, you can put that link here and again, choose the grade level, and it's going to create adapted resources from that original source. Or you can go to any text or excerpt and you can paste in or upload a PDF here. And again, you choose the grade level, and that's how you get started. I'm going to go with literally anything. I'm going to type in mitosis and we'll set it for a 6th grade level. And so this is where it's using AI to create a reading at that particular grade level that we've assigned it to and more. It's going to create a reading, a summary, key vocabulary words, multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and open-ended questions. And with all of those, you can edit and change them. And really, the name Diffit and the goal here was to make it really simple for teachers to differentiate instruction. I used to teach a class specifically for newcomer English learners, and I had to still teach them world history, right? I had to still teach them the content. I was not their English teacher. And this tool would have changed my life because I had 5, 6 different languages in the room at one time of students who spoke almost no English, but were still expected to engage in class in a meaningful way. And this, you'll see right here, I can take what it's just created and we've got over 50 languages I can translate it to. So you can adapt the reading level and then put it in the home language of the students you're working with. But here's what it's created: an adapted reading where I can actually see the sources that it used to create the reading. So like a lot of AI tools, there's always the fear of hallucination or it making things up or not being accurate. We've put some like guardrails on, so it's going to use cited sources when it does generate using AI. We've got our summary, our vocab list, and here you can even add your own vocabulary if there's really specific core vocabulary you want included. Multiple choice questions where you can see the answers. You can add more questions based on whatever DOK level you're looking for. Short answer questions and open-ended prompts. And this was the original way that Diffit was created. And here you can edit, you can copy, you can tweak it. But what really I think makes it a time saver for teachers is our export. So when you go to export and share, you can do directly to Google Forms, Google Docs, or any of these slides, this template library of slides that we have available here. And we're adding more. So please, please, please give me suggestions of what you want to see next. I'm actually the one that builds all the slides at the moment, but if there's a particular like graphic organizer you want to see or any of that, just let us know. But I'll just go ahead and grab one of these so you can see, because I know the part of today is not just this, like there's more things we want to talk about. But let me go ahead and grab like our 3, 2, 1, open with slides. It's going to take all of the things it just created for me and put it into that slide deck. And like if it's an article that you're using in your classroom, or it's an existing piece of curriculum you're using and you just need to adapt it to a different grade level for some students, this allows you to do that really quickly. So I'll click open with Google Slides and it's already put in. So it's put the vocabulary in, the reading. Sometimes you do want to go through and like change the size of the font a little bit. We've got those multiple choice questions where students can answer and explain. And this is ready to print and share with students. And then there's also, if we go back here, you share this again. You know, if you like doing like hyper slides or interactive slides with your students, there's also some that are set up that way as well. And that's it. That's how it works. It's really simple. It's really straightforward, but we wanted to make something that was very high quality of what it was producing for teachers in as simple and quick a way as possible.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this. Like this, when I first saw this, it really, my jaw dropped when I was like, wow, like, especially with the reading level. One of my things that I absolutely loved about this is the fact that, for example, like you mentioned, working with emergent bilingual students, and in my area, we get that very often, and I know for a lot of school districts you get that. And oftentimes the case is we have a specialist that works on getting us that content, but many times it's like, wow, we have to wait while it's produced, or because they may not know that the student has come in, and so on and so forth. But what I love about it is, talk about the ability to just improvise, adapt, and overcome with Diffit. What I love is, okay, I get the new student come in. Okay, I see that maybe they are having that struggle being an emergent bilingual, but now I can find something in their language where they're still learning the same content that everybody else is doing. And what I love about it too was the fact, I was talking to one of our ELA specialists, stating, you know ninth grade teacher, they're going over a novel. Oftentimes, it's maybe students would need to get pulled out to get additional support. But I know if I was that teacher, I would say, okay, maybe that ninth grade novel or that excerpt, I can put it down to maybe a seventh grade level or maybe even sixth grade level, but still have all my students in the class still enjoying the lecture and not having to get pulled out, and being kind of a little bit singled out, obviously. And this is what I love, that I can differentiate, where I can make things as easy as possible for the students at whatever level that they may need, all in one place, quick and easy, and on the fly. Like, I mean, kid walks in and that's their first day. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go. Here, let me go ahead and show you what we're doing. Here you go. And this is one thing that I love about it, just the ease of use. So this is wonderful.
Yeah, and I think so often and I'm at fault at this as well. I think so often we think about the need to differentiate being specifically for special education classrooms
Mm.
or for multilingual students, but like a lot of the stories we get back is like, I just got a story recently from an AP, I want to say psychology teacher, and she was like, I was doing station rotation with my students, and one group was at a station, and the reading just like it just wasn't working, and so they were starting to get off track. It was starting, the fear you have in the classroom of when the students can't connect with the content. Of course, that's going to be the moment where they disengage from the learning. And she was like, I just ran over to Diffit, ran it through really quickly, took it down a grade level and gave it to them. And then they were back on track and their confidence was back up. And so it's for all students, right?
Yeah.
Especially now when we know that in a given classroom, I had 42 students per class. In a given classroom, there are so many students who have so many different needs and have so many different experiences, and being able as a teacher to quickly meet those needs, or even like we talk about intervention specialists, for them to be able to make it aligned with the content in core curriculum more easily is so powerful. Sorry, I get a little excited when I talk about
No,
it
and
too.
and no, but that's wonderful, because that conversation is what we had with our content specialist. Actually, she's one of the coaches, that works with the content specialist. And the other day we were getting ready, and she was creating, some worksheets or some readings, and she was like, "Man, we can't find anything, specifically to like author's purpose at this grade level or this kind of thing." And I said, "Hey, have you tried Diffit? And we can kind of just work things out and tweak it, and we can even work the grade level too as well, or the level as far as the reader is concerned."
Mhm.
And she just went to town and she just absolutely loved it. But the fact, like you mentioned, the ease of use and being able to incorporate it within your current curriculum without having to build anything out, because our content specialist builds the curriculum for the year. So many of those readings that are there can easily be run through Diffit and say, okay, you know what, like you mentioned, even though the whole class may be at level, but they feel disengaged or they're just not getting it. Hey, you know what? Let's bring it down a notch and just make sure that we understand completely, the reading and what we need to do. And then we can just kind of bring that up to level again and so on. So I love the ease of use, and just to have a tool that can do that right away, where, prior to this, it's like, well, we need to wait for the content specialist to create this. Or, you know what, I'm not a Spanish teacher, but, and I have to wait for, the ELA department, or not ELA, I forget which department it is. I forget the names. There's so many acronyms,
There's
but
so
then,
many, right?
yes. So for them to be able to create that Spanish content for the
Mhm.
students, and now you can go ahead and do that immediately in your class and on the fly. And what I did love that I noticed there, and many of you that noticed it, that are Google districts, is that you can share that through your Google Classroom. So
Yes.
talk about making it so streamlined, and making that process where you can, use a link, upload a PDF, and just create a wonderful lesson or additional tier 2 support or even tier 3 support if needed, all in one place. And this is why I find it, I find that Diffit is very, it's just awesome. It's like it's a Swiss Army knife, really. Like it does so much, but in such a simple way that is not very overwhelming. So kudos to the team and the work that you guys are doing. So that is amazing. So that kind of actually probably answered my next question, because my next question was, obviously with like we talked about earlier, how, quickly education evolves, and obviously ed tech evolves right along with it in the classroom. A lot of the challenges that we do see in the classroom is sometimes it's too much tech and too overwhelming, where it just feels like I already have 100 plates spinning, and now figuring out another platform and doing this in a different login and a different platform and so on. Now I'm adding another plate and I'm barely, keeping all 100 up. But, what I love is what we're seeing is how Diffit is addressing these concerns with one tool, and everything that you were able to do there, from the slides, the way that you created those interactive slides, the way that you created, the other type of slides that you were just sharing with us, that could be independent, or like we mentioned, tier 1, tier 2 support. So how does Diffit really, just go to bat for teachers in this? Like, what's the mission and vision?
Oh, that I think is, you know, we really want it to be a tool that allows teachers to meet every student where they are at, while also giving teachers back their time, right? Which is that's a big bold mission, right? That's a big statement to make. And as a teacher who experienced the like ed tech tool fatigue, one of the things we talk about a lot is that, this isn't necessarily an ed tech tool, right? Like, yes, you can push things out through Google Classroom, but there's no student facing side of it except for that end product that teachers could print it out if they wanted to. If they wanted students to be able to read and draw, like we have some activities that are like drawing by hand and things like that. It's really trying to ensure that whatever we create here is not getting in the way of teachers creating high quality instructional materials, while also getting that time back. And finding that balance has led to the simplicity of what it does at this point. And the fact that we want it to have a starting point that's very simple for teachers, where they don't have to make a lot of choices to get started. It's more, once they start to see the materials, then they decide, okay, what's the nuance of how I want to, engage with my students here.
Excellent. And one thing that you mentioned there that I love is, like you said, it's the tech fatigue.
Yeah.
This right now, the way that you did this so quickly, definitely, there's no fatigue there at all, because you're going straight to the point, to the end product. And like you said, you don't have to worry about anything that is on the student side, where a lot
Mhm.
of platforms try and tie to the LMS and all this other stuff. And, like you said, it could be very stressing, because it's on another platform, another login, another different, kind of submission, another alert, and so on. But with this, the fact that you're able to just go to one place and create, that is amazing. So going back, talking to that, about that mission with teachers and helping teachers out, a lot of how we saw the different outputs, how much of that was from teacher feedback, and how important is that feedback to Diffit in helping create that amazing platform?
Yeah. So we've only had these templates out, for the Google Slide templates out, for like not even a full week yet. We released them to the public on Thursday. But prior to that, we had about 3 or 4 weeks of, sharing with individual teachers and getting their feedback, and then me going back and either making more templates or tweaking the templates or creating more. And we got to this point where we decided that we have a good handful here of templates that we think are fairly universal when it comes to content area and grade level. And now we just want to see what teachers want next. And we really want to meet the needs of where teachers are at, because all those templates that I first created were based on my experience in the classroom. But again, I'm a year out of the classroom, and I know how quickly things are moving. I'm talking with teachers daily. I know that their experience is not the same as the experience that I had in the classroom. And we want to be very aware of that and create resources that really align to those needs and wants. So that teacher feedback, especially on the templates, is so important. And I think like how we ended up at Google Slides was really truly because of that teacher feedback. We started with Google Forms because it was literally every day a message from teachers like, I want Google Forms, I want Google Forms, I want Google Forms. And then we did that and they were like, oh, maybe they can do more things. And then it was Google Docs, Google Docs, Google Docs. And then we ended up with slides. And so that teacher feedback really, really is we spend probably more time talking about and looking at and thinking about feedback than I ever knew a company could.
That is excellent. But it's so important. And I've had Al Kingsley was here, several weeks ago, and that's what he mentioned. One of the best things to do is really, and this is a quote. He goes, "Just shut up and listen." And that was his quote to ed tech companies to say, "Hey, don't treat people just like another invoice, but really just be quiet and listen,
And I do want to say one
listen
more thing
because
on that.
they're going to tell you." Yeah,
I it froze on my end. So as you're saying, listen, I spoke
yeah, yeah.
over you. I'm so sorry.
No, no, no. You're good.
But I want to say one more thing about that is as such a small company, like we want to listen and we want all the feedback that's coming towards us. But because we're such a small company, there are things that we're writing down and we're exploring and we're thinking about, but we know we can't do just yet. So like I'm always, when I get good feedback, I'm always like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm going to give it to the team, but I can make you zero promises right now. So I promise when I say that, I'm serious. We are talking about it, but with such a small team and so many goals to make sure that it's high quality what we're giving you. Some things it might take a little bit longer than we want them to.
No, absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
completely understandable. But that's what I love though, that the attention and the detail that you go into it. And like I said, that's what I applaud you for because I see it. But for teachers to be able to say, wow, like they're listening and look at what they were able to do. First it was Google Forms, now Google Docs. It's like, wow, slides. And then like you mentioned, good things take time and you
Mhm.
definitely want to deliver. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather, maybe kind of promise, but then when I do bring it out, it's going to be something that is going to be very surprising and just surpass your expectations. And that's completely understandable. And I love the fact that you're just being very real and you're being very open and transparent, which is something that maybe it's not seen often, and that's something that I also admire because of the way that you handle things. Because even myself, messaging you on TikTok a couple of times and being like, "Hey, maybe can you try this?" or "I like this," or "was pretty cool," and so on. And just knowing that that feedback is taken and it is noted, and so that's really wonderful. And I know that teachers definitely love that. And as they see things that are rolling out, and obviously I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff in the works because you definitely have a lot of great teachers that are giving you guys some feedback for sure. So now I kind of want to, ask you a little bit. I know that you gave us a little brief demo as far as what Diffit can do and just the ease of use. But for anybody that is listening to this podcast and couldn't see that demo, I want to ask you, for somebody that is new to Diffit or is just hearing it, after this episode, what are some of the standout features and tools that you believe that they should know about?
I think that for me, how I started with Diffit was really using an existing article and having it adapt. So starting with content and seeing how it will adapt it for a particular grade level, whether that's a YouTube video, whether that's a news article, if you do current events in your classroom, start with that, especially if you're brand new and you're feeling a little bit timid about AI. I think that's where a teacher who maybe has never used a tool, well, there's not really a tool like this, but who's never used an AI tool before, that's a really good starting point. And then go through and just customize it. Press every button. And if you get stuck, join our Facebook group. I'll put that link in the chat in just a second, but join our Facebook group because we always want to help and support and hear your feedback and hear where you got stuck, right? Once you play with it. But it is so user friendly and or at least we hope it is so user friendly that just go and play and start with content, start with an article or a video really well and you use in your classroom and see what it can create for you from that.
Absolutely. And that's what I always tell my teachers. It's like, hey, anytime I introduce something new, I always say, just get clicky with it. Have
Yeah.
fun. There's nothing that you can break. You
No.
can always click back or click refresh or just log out and log back in, but just go in, press every button so you know
Yes.
what it does. And you just familiarize yourself with it. And the other thing that I tell them that this helps them do is see that they control the tech doesn't control them. So that way it doesn't feel like something that is overwhelming or something that may cause some frustration. They're the ones in control at the end. And so
I
I always
love
tell them,
that.
hey, just get clicky with it. It's all good. So that's wonderful. All right. So now, Catherine, with all the feedback that you get, and maybe you don't have to, share too much because obviously, there's things that you can or can't say. But I know the original question said, where do you see Diffit in the next 5 years? But I think that's way too far ahead. I just want to ask, where do you see Diffit in the next 5 months? And are there any initiatives that you guys are particularly excited about?
I think because we are so brand new, and there are things I can't say. I'm going to focus on. I just hope that in the next 5 months we continue to have teachers playing with it daily and telling us what they want to see next. That's what I want in the next 5 months. I want more and more teachers logging on, playing with it, finding us and telling us what they love, what they find challenging about it, what they wish it did, so we can continue to really make this the best possible experience for teachers.
Wonderful. And that's perfect. That, like I said, obviously, as you continue to grow, we're definitely going to see more of those highlights come out. But well said. I mean, it just really goes to show what it is that your mission is, which is really keeping it simple
Mhm.
and just having teachers just go in and play around. I have added the Facebook group
Thank
link
you.
into the chat and everything. So I made sure and pop that in there. And of course, I would definitely make sure and put that in the show notes as well.
Thank
So
you.
any educators that are listening to the show will definitely hop over to the Facebook group and just continue to build that community, get to learn more, and maybe find some new and innovative ways to share Diffit and use Diffit. But most importantly, too, maybe say, hey, I've got some great feedback that I can share. As we all know, that feedback is definitely taken to heart for sure. So that's wonderful. All right. Well, now I want to ask you, like again, going back to this community piece, and it really has resonated through the whole episode as you've talked about Diffit, the simplicity, but also just that community. It really seems like it is at the heart of Diffit. So again, how do you foster that community and ensure that the educators feel supported? Because I know that you're on multiple platforms, you hear so many voices, and I know that you may be overextending yourself because you're a team of one as far as the content and community manager side. But what do you do, and what is Diffit, their mission to continue to help educators feel supported?
Yeah. So for me personally, I think it goes back to that question you asked in the beginning of, like, you were asking about my day, and most of my days are they range wildly throughout because we've been working on all these new things, except for the constant of I start my day and I end my day engaged with our teacher community. And of course, there's going to be, I am one person and I am aware that there's going to be things that fall through the cracks, then always breaks my heart a little bit. But I hope that because it is this habit that I've created, it's this continuity in place of how the work is done. Before I jump into the work of building for our team, I'm engaged with our community and following up with them. And before I leave for the day, the way that I end my day is again, reaching out to those teachers, engaging with them, seeing what they have to say, and making sure that I take it to heart. And so far, that's been one of the most powerful ways to grow and engage and foster the community. Because at the end of the day, my voice is not the one that should stand out the most, because it really, what we want to hear is how teachers are using it, what feedback they have, and how that community is going to thrive is if it's teachers sharing their ideas, their thoughts, their opinions, and really collaborating with each other. And we're getting to this point where we're starting to see that. And I'm going to be able to become a quieter voice in that community and really just help lift up those teacher stories and those teacher voices and connect educator groups and things like that. And ideally what we want to see happen is that I become a facilitator and the teachers are the ones who are really sharing, collaborating, inspiring, and always, always, always giving us that feedback.
That is amazing. I love that. Like you mentioned right now, it's just that big connector of people,
Mhm.
really amplifying their voices, amplifying their practice, because at the end, that's who you're building the product for. And they're the ones that are really going to make the product shine and just continue to build that up based on the feedback. But I love what you said, you're just going to be that facilitator to help and be there and just bring these wonderful, brilliant educators together. And, we all know what can happen with all those educators together, just some great things. And that's something that is very needed within our educator community, just more community, more communities of practice. And just the sharing of that knowledge is just something that can be very useful and, that we can leverage not only just for a particular school district, but being part of a group or a Facebook group like Diffit and seeing the experiences from multiple educators and seeing different perspectives. Like, you can think of like, wow, I never thought about those things, and now you learn something new, and that's so important. And I absolutely love that, Catherine. I can definitely see you being that great connector of people and that amazing facilitator for sure.
Oh,
uh,
thank you.
all right, so my last question before we kind of wrap up on the last three questions that I always love to ask my guests. But of course, right now we talked a little bit about the pre-chat, how teachers are overwhelmed with so much tech that is out there, whether it's AI or not AI. What advice would you give educators, when navigating a specific choice for platforms?
Yeah. This is such a great question. And it's a question that, like, I've had strong opinions about for a very long time as a former teacher. And it is really and truly, no matter what ed tech tool you're looking at, if it does not benefit your students while also making your life easier, it you don't it might not be the right tool for you. And you don't have to use every single tool that's out there. So the core is always, is it benefiting your students? Is it helping you achieve a goal with your students? And is it saving you time and effort while benefiting your students? And if the answer is yes to both of those things, then dive in, explore it more, see how you can use it. If it's not, then maybe that's not the right tool for you at this time. That's always been my view of ed tech, and I hope that resonates with someone who needs to, trim down their list of ed tech tools. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that is for sure. There's so many, and that's the thing that we often see, and we see it, even after pandemic now, it's like, the companies, giving everything for free. And then now it's like, hey, we come back, now we got to pay. But then there's other companies that come out and it's maybe duplication, but yet because that one company has that one additional button or one additional feature, when you haven't really taken a deep dive into what you already have. And it almost becomes very addictive, I think, for a lot of teachers that see things and they just want to go and try it just to try. But again, like you said, is it something that's going to benefit the student, or
Mhm.
is it going to make things a lot more stressful because now I've got to learn a different login, I've got a different platform, I've got different alerts now. And sometimes we can be our worst enemy because we want to try everything. So that's why my motto has always been just keep it simple. Whatever
Yep,
it is that you need to do, what is your main objective and which tool can get you to that objective with the least possible resistance. Keep it
absolutely.
simple. So I love it. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful advice for all our listeners that are out there. You heard it here. So keep it simple and make sure that it's something that is really going to help you and not cause more frustration. Well, Catherine, it's just been wonderful chatting with you and, just the energy that you bring and obviously representing a wonderful platform such as Diffit. It has been just a wonderful pleasure to have you here, just sharing your energy and your passion for what you do because it really does come through. But before we wrap up, we always love to end the show with the following three questions. And if you are familiar with the show, you know what those three questions are. However, I did put them in the calendar invite just so you can take a look and see, and maybe you wanted to think about it during the day. But question number one, we all know that kryptonite was or caused Superman to weaken. That was kind of like a weapon against him. So we know that in education, there are many practices that kind of weaken us, whether it's a practice or a tool, a practice, edu speak, state testing, all those things. So I want to ask you, from your perspective and your view and your experience, what would you say might be your current edu kryptonite?
My current edu kryptonite. The thing, well, when I think of kryptonite, I think of things that like lessen my joy, and because lessening my joy lessens my strength. And so when I see teachers being when I see the current treatment of teachers not being heard, not being valued, not being respected as educators, it lessens my joy, and it makes me so sad for educators. And I want to do everything I can to turn that around and really help them feel empowered
Awesome.
and heard.
Absolutely. There you go. That is a great one. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that answer. All right. Question number 2, Catherine, is if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Oh, and I know you gave this one to me, and I thought about it all day. I think it would. Oh, I don't know. You prepared me, and I just can't remember what I was going to say here. Hold on. Mm, if I could have a billboard with anything on it, I think I would want it to say something regarding the importance of knowing someone's story. And I wish I had some more elegant way of saying that, but whether it's our students, our teachers, our community, the importance of knowing an individual's story and how powerful and meaningful that can be in how much more we can accomplish when we know each other's stories.
I love that. Know someone's story.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the billboard
Okay, we
right
did
there.
it.
Yes, you did it.
Just
You
needed to
did it.
collaborate a little.
Yes, obvious. Yeah, it was great, and I love it. You're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that I love about doing this show too, is because not only do I get to connect with somebody that may work at a specific company or so on and so forth, but it's really about making that connection to the person as
Mhm.
well as what their current role may be, whether it's in the classroom or such as yourself working for an ed tech company. There's always something to learn from that. And I think that's so powerful. So absolutely, I love that billboard. Know someone's story. Wonderful. Love it. All right, Catherine. And the last question for you now is, if you had to write a book tomorrow, what would it be about?
It would be about Star Wars. My extensive geek knowledge around Star Wars is shocking to most people who only know me in a professional setting. But it would, there's plenty of things I'm sure I could write about within education, but it's Star Wars.
Awesome. Absolutely. That's wonderful. I have a colleague of mine. So big shout out to my colleague, Isaac. He is a huge fan of Star Wars. I mean, anything that I could ever throw at him, he already knows, and timelines and everything. And I was just like, wow. So yeah, definitely. I definitely would probably just let him know, just to say, hey, maybe you should follow Catherine too and stuff like that, on social media or something like that. And he absolutely loves it. But that's great. So thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate everything that you shared today, Catherine. It was an honor, a pleasure to connect with you, to hear a little bit about your story, your background, to hear now what you're currently doing to help our teacher community through Diffit and what Diffit is doing, their mission, their vision. It's very clear for the most part. What I'm taking from it is community, 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 and building something simple that teachers can use and that could be very effective and not cause any frustrations. So that's what it's all about for me. That's what I'm taking from it. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you so much to the Diffit team, the rest of the team also as well, for what they do, because as educators, we definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to us and taking our feedback into account. You guys are amazing. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
So thank
And
you.
thank you for this amazing opportunity. This was such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It was great. Like I said, I had been looking forward to this for a while because, like I said, following your content on TikTok, I just kind of, there's, I think, one other person that from TikTok, or two other people too, that have been on the show that I'm just like, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. And it's wonderful. And definitely the conversation was better than what I thought it would be. And so it's wonderful. So thank you so much for that. And for all our audience members, those of you that joined us live or those of you that are catching this on the replay, as always, thank you so much for making my EdTech life what it is today. Like I mentioned to you at the very beginning, we do what we do for you so we can bring you some amazing conversations, amazing stories of educators, practitioners, edupreneurs, entrepreneurs, and of course, transitioning teachers getting into EdTech and building community and just continuing to help our growing community. So, it's been an honor and a pleasure to do this for over 3 years now, and it's only going to get better thanks to you and to all of your support. So I really appreciate you all. Please make sure that you visit our website at myedtech.life, where you can check out this amazing episode and the other 237 amazing and wonderful episodes, where you can definitely listen to some amazing educators, creators, edupreneurs, entrepreneurs, take some knowledge nuggets from them and sprinkle them onto what you are already doing great. So guys, please make sure that you also visit our YouTube channel. We're trying to get it to 1,000 subscribers. Please make sure you go by, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and please make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast player. We're pretty much everywhere. Just search up My EdTech Live and keep on following us on all socials at My EdTech Live. So thank you guys as always for all your support. And my friends, until next time, don't forget, stay techie.